Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 5th overall spot on FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, a kicker defense, and 6 bench spots. I decided to go with 2 flexes in today's video because I believe that as the years have gone on, 2 flex or 3 wide receiver leagues have become more the normal, and especially in a 10-team league where a lot of teams are going to be stacked, I think adding that extra flex spot really adds some more skill to the game. We are going to be drafting up against the expert consensus rankings as well as the composite ADP, but before we could get into things, if you do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. Whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. So without further ado, let's get into this 10-team PPR mock draft from the 5th overall spot on FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. So like I said off the rip, since this is a 10-team league, a lot of the teams are going to be stacked. Now, it's not going to be as stacked as an 8-team league, but I do think that that extra flex or that 3rd wide receiver spot is almost essential to give the people in your league who are more skilled a better chance of winning. So looking at the draft, it begins with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, and Tony Pollard. I think it is absolutely insane that Tony Pollard would go at the 104, but if in late August, early September, if they don't bring in another running back like Leonard Fournette or they bring back Zeke, then Tony Pollard probably will end up being a first-round pick, just not that high at the 104. So we're up at the 1.05, and the question here would be, do we want to go running back or wide receiver? I do think some people might want to take Travis Kelce at the 105, and I think that elite tight end is even better in a 10-team league because, again, a lot of these teams are going to be stacked, and that differentiator for you could be that elite tight end in Travis Kelce, but I just don't feel comfortable taking Travis Kelce at the 105. If I was at the 108 and he was there, then I would be screaming to the mountaintops to take him, but at the 105, I think that is just a little too high for my liking. So looking at the board, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, best running backs available in terms of wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. I think I can find a great running back in the 2nd round, and I feel very confident in 2 wide receivers here, so we're just going to go with the best wide receiver available, Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill. You can really flip a coin on that. If Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are both able to stay healthy, this is a duo like peanut butter and fucking jelly, right? This is a duo that is going to score a bunch of points, and Cooper Kupp could easily be the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. He was the wide receiver 1 in points per game last year. Had he have not gotten hurt, he probably would have been the wide receiver 1 in PPR as well as in half PPR. The guy is dominant. He is a target hog in an offense that doesn't have a lot of weapons, which further boosts up Cooper Kupp. It doesn't even matter if the team puts 2 DBs on him. He's still going to dominate 50 shades of gray style. So we made our pick at the 105, Cooper Kupp. After that, we see Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce, Saquon Barkley, Tyreek Hill, and Bijan Robinson. The 2nd round opens with Josh Jacobs, Stephon Diggs, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, and Ramondre Stevenson. Now, I have seen some pushback on my running back rankings video that I dropped last week on Saturday. I talked about how I think Bijan Robinson is a locked and loaded 1st round fantasy football draft pick. I am not worried one bit that he is a rookie running back. Some people try to push back on that. They say, oh, he's a rookie. I just don't have the heart to do it. Ultimately, I think this is a running back that is going to see so many carries game in and game out. Now, obviously in college, he didn't have a large track record of being some elite pass catcher, getting a bunch of targets every single game, but when the ball was thrown his way at Texas, he was able to do great things with it. I think in Atlanta, a team that wants to pound the rock down the defense's throat, a team that last year, when they were getting smacked around, bent over a table, they were running the rock with Tyler Algier. So you better believe they are going to run the rock at a high rate with the running back that they paid such heavy NFL draft capital to get. So looking at the board here, all the quarterbacks are available. I think drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round is a little too high. Now, in prior years, I would definitely be against drafting a quarterback even in the 3rd round, but I think this year, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Jalen Hurts, if you wanted them in the 3rd round, I definitely would not argue with you on that. Looking at the board here, best running back available, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. The wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, and Jalen Waddle. So I love CeeDee Lamb. I love A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle. The thing is, though, I think by the time we come back to pick in the 3rd round, I'm going to feel a little gross about the running backs. Now, do I mind taking Najee Harris or Travis Etienne? Not necessarily, but I feel very confident in Nick Chubb. I honestly think he could easily be a top 3 running back in fantasy football this year. There are some rumors that he's going to potentially even catch more passes in this offense since Kareem Hunt is gone. 9-inch Nicholas Chubb has been a top 10 running back over the last couple of years, and if he gets that extra pass catching upside, that could boost him even further, as well as the fact that the Cleveland Browns offense kind of turned to complete and utter dog shit once Deshaun Watson took over last year, and I think Deshaun Watson is going to play a lot better this season. I would just be hard-pressed to see Deshaun Watson get all that money, come back in 2023. Maybe he was a little rusty last year. I think he plays much better in 2023. After we go with my boy 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, the boy Breece Hall comes off the board, followed by A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb, Garrett Wilson. The 3rd opens with Derrick Henry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen waddled away, waddle, till the very next day, bum, bada bum, and Mark Andrews in the 3rd round. I really like Mark Andrews a ton. The thing is, though, while I love him as the tight end number 2, would I really be shocked if Hawkinson or Kittle outscored him? Even Kyle Pitts, Goddard? Probably not, but I just feel like if Lamar Jackson is able to stay healthy in a better system for the Baltimore Ravens, I really feel like Mark Andrews could be the tight end number 1. But as I say that, I feel very confident in Kelce as a back 1st round pick. Again, maybe not the 105, but the 108, the 109, the 110 in a 10-team league, to me, feels good, especially since, again, I give that extra boost to the tight end because I feel like a lot of these teams are going to have great running backs, great wide receivers, but some of these teams might have, let's see down here, Pat Freiermuth as their tight end number 1, and while I think Freiermuth's a decent pick, he's no Travis Kelce, so that's kind of why I explained that. And same thing goes with the quarterback, right? If you really liked Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, I think you can easily take them here in the 3rd round because you're going to have that huge edge at the quarterback position. So looking at the board here, Cooper Kupp and Nick Chubb on our team. Again, I do think Najee Harris or Travis Etienne are fine, but since I already have Nick Chubb, and since there are 2 flex spots, I feel like I could just start jamming the wide receiver position, and then the 4th round maybe end up going quarterback. Look at the best wide receivers available: Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf. I have been someone that is somewhat against Chris Olave. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm full fading Chris Olave, but I am a little bit nervous about the fact that if Michael Thomas stays healthy, again, I say as this is a humongous if Michael Thomas stays healthy, then I think Chris Olave might fade into a spot where if you draft him in the 3rd round, you feel a little bit silly. Obviously, T. Higgins has Jamar Chase ahead of him, but I think T. Higgins is the 1B in that offense. If something happened to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins' value would skyrocket to almost a top 5 wide receiver weekly. So I'm going to go with the boy T. Higgins over Chris Olave. I think you take Devontae Smith in this spot as well. I just feel a little bit more confident in T. Higgins. If I'm being honest, again, if you wanted to go ahead and go with Chris Olave, I'm not going to have some crazy argument with you. After T. Higgins, we see Jahmyr Gibbs, Chris Olave, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, Travis Etienne, Keenan Allen, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, and T.J. Hawkinson. So first quarterback off the board in the 4th round. I think in your more experienced leagues with people who are maybe even watching videos in July, almost July 4th, happy 4th of July to all of you Americans like myself, I think that those kind of leagues, quarterbacks will go a bit later. But if you're in a league with your buddies from home or people from college or coworkers, quarterbacks might go early. A quarterback might even be the first fucking pick in your draft. Because in real life, the quarterback's the most important position. In fantasy, it is far from it. So again, Nick Chubb, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins on the squad. If I'm being honest with you, if any of these quarterbacks fell to the 4th round, I am licking my chops. I like Jalen Hurts more than Josh Allen strictly based on the rushing upside. Josh Allen, obviously a better passer than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has better weapons, though, and a better offensive line and more rushing upside. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer to have Jalen Hurts ranked ahead of Josh Allen, and I even have Jalen Hurts ranked as my quarterback 1 on the season ahead of Patrick Mahomes. We all know just how great Patrick Mahomes is, and we all know he's the best quarterback in the fucking NFL, but ultimately in fantasy football, that rushing upside is just so important. If you are in a 6-point per passing touchdown quarterback league, though, it is definitely a lot closer. They all are still in the same tier, though, so I'm not saying it's a mortal lock of the century that Hurts finishes as the QB1. After Jalen Hurts, we see JK, just kidding, Dobbins, Josh Allen, Joe Mixon, Kenny Walker, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, and Drake Drake London. So I've talked about Kenneth Walker ad nauseum on the channel. You guys know, if you've watched my videos before, if you haven't watched my videos before, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, that I am a Kenneth Walker hater, right? I don't hate the player, I just hate the situation. When he was going in the first and second round, it made no sense. When he was going in the third round, it made no sense. But at the end of the fourth round, in the fifth round, while I'm not kind of scratching at it, you know, scratching at the bit of getting Kenneth Walker, I think he's acceptable at that pick, right? Because that is baking in the risk that he is not going to be this workhorse running back, which I think is kind of out of the range of outcomes. I would be shocked if he was just this workhorse 70% of the snaps on the offense. So again, Jalen Hurts, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins on the team. Fifth round, pretty interesting. All wide receivers: Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Drake London. I think a lot of people are starting to worry about Deebo Samuel a little bit more, which is something I've been kind of preaching all off season. Looking at the board, we already have our quarterback, so we don't need another quarterback. We're either looking running back or wide receiver. I like Kittle, but again, am I really sold on Kittle in the fifth round when we just saw TJ Hockenson go off in the fourth round? The answer is no, if I'm being honest with you. So looking at the board at wide receiver: Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy. Running backs: Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, Rashad White, Cam Akers. Now, I have talked about my favorite draft strategy on the channel, which is the hero running back strategy. So basically, you draft a running back in either the first or the second round. In this case, it was 9-inch Nicholas Chubb in the second round. And then you kind of just hammer wide receivers. You might get a quarterback. You might even get a tight end, and then you start drafting running backs, right? So your hero running back is the main guy, and then you're kind of just cycling in running back twos, right? So, for instance, if we drafted Nick Chubb and then we draft a bunch of wide receivers, maybe our running back two for week one might be Alexander Madison, but maybe 3 weeks in, we realize Alexander Madison's not the answer, and then Dalvin Cook is in there, or Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. So, basically, you just hammer every position except for running back, besides that first or second round, and then you want to go ahead and just jam running backs later on in the draft. I don't think that's the strategy we're going to go with here, but that is a strategy I really like. I want to go ahead and get Dameon Pierce. Some people really like Miles Sanders. They think he's going to be a 3-down back in Carolina. I don't necessarily think so. I think Chuba Hubbard's going to get the third round role, but if the third down role, if Miles Sanders, though, does take over as that workhorse running back in the fifth round, obviously there is just a shit ton of value in that. So I think mixing in Miles Sanders isn't the craziest scenario, and I think that's what we're going to do here. I would definitely rather have Dameon Pierce, but I think there is a lot of upside in Miles Sanders. These are two offenses that we obviously predict not to be the best, right? The Carolina Panthers or the Houston Texans. And there has been some talk, though, that this is going to be Miles Sanders catching a lot more passes, even coming from the head coach's mouth, which would be pretty promising. If that is the case, right, we see him catch maybe 50 balls. That obviously helps him a ton. After Miles Sanders, we see Chris Godwin, Alexander Mattison, DJ Moore, DJ Moore, Cam Akers, Michael Pittman Jr. The sixth opens with Dameon Pierce, Jerry Jeudy, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, and Dalvin Cook. So we have Miles Sanders. I don't really feel a need to draft any of these running backs. Like, I like James Conner, but I'd rather just start drafting wide receivers here. Deontay Johnson is the most underrated wide receiver in fantasy football right now. Goes in the 7th round of some drafts. I like Christian Watson more than him, and I also like Tyler Lockett a ton, so this does make this pick kind of difficult. In terms of Deontay Johnson, this is a guy that is a target hog in an offense. I know people love George Pickens, but I'm going to be honest with you, Deontay Johnson is going to easily out-target him. So look at his stats right here real quick. 2019, he gets a decent amount of targets. It's his rookie year, 6 touchdowns, right? And then 2020, this is when he really blows up, right? 144 fucking targets, 923 yards, 7 touchdowns. It's like, right, 6 touchdowns, then 7 touchdowns. 2021, 169 targets, 8 touchdowns. Then last year, 147 targets, 0 touchdowns. So it's pretty clear to me that the 0 touchdowns is the outlier. If he scores even just 5 fucking touchdowns last year, he finishes much higher at the wide receiver position, and people are probably singing the praises of him in the 6th round. I think Christian Watson is a little bit more risky. I think they both have very similar upside. I think Christian Watson is in kind of an underrated offense of the Green Bay Packers. Tyler Lockett, not a lot of people talk about him. Obviously, the addition of Jackson Smith and the Jigba in the offense kind of sucks for Tyler Lockett, because there's just another guy that's going to potentially suck in a bunch of targets. I still like Lockett, but I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson here, even though I have Christian Watson ranked higher. I think they're both great players. I was hoping maybe Watson would fall back to me, but obviously that never happens, right? When you hope in your mind, you're like, I need this guy or I want this guy to fall back to me, they never do. But if you just forget about it, you make your pick, and then you come back on the board in the 7th round, then Christian Watson's going to be there every single time, right? Because you didn't think about it. After Deontay Johnson, we see Hollywood Brown, Christian Watson, Lamar Jackson, Mike Dubb, Joe Shiesty, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, and DeAndre Hopkins. Let me be completely, blatantly fucking honest with you guys. DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be a 7th round pick come August, right? He's not on a team right now. Who knows what team he's going to be on, right? But if he goes to any team, his ADP is going to move up probably to be closer to, in a 10-team league, probably maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. I think in a 12-team league, potentially even a 3rd round pick. Like, I get, Nick, Deontay Johnson's old, all that shit. I gotta be honest, I don't care that he's old. Like, he's still really good, so I'm not too worried about that. If I'm being honest with you, if we could go back, I'm probably not taking Jalen Hurts in the 4th. I'm probably taking maybe Joe Mixon or Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, who I like a bunch, and then taking Justin Fields in the 7th round. But obviously we can't go back. In a lot of drafts nowadays, quarterbacks are flying off the board at a much higher rate. So I think we got good value on Jalen Hurts. I'm not too upset about that, but you know, can't go back in a real draft. Lockett's still available. Looking at running backs, James Conner. I like the duo of Nick Chubb and Miles Sanders, so I'd rather just get another wide receiver here to add to my 2nd flex spot. So we're going to go with Tyler Lockett. I think on a weekly basis, Lockett is not going to be very consistent, but he has that boom upside in the Seattle offense that's going to be throwing the ball a decent amount. Geno Smith is not my favorite quarterback, but he proved me completely wrong. He proved everyone wrong last year. I thought this guy was about as useful as a bag of dicks, but ultimately he turned everything around, right? His whole career was nothing but mid, even worse than mid as a Jet, but then he turned everything around. He was really good last year. Lockett is still a great receiver, even with JSN there. I like Mike Evans a ton too, but I'm all aboard the Tyler Lockett in my pocket skirt train. A lot of people are trying to talk themselves into Brandon Ayuk. I think if Big Cock Brock Purdy starts, which seems like what's going to end up happening, I got to move him up my rankings a ton because he could easily be a top 12 quarterback. I just don't know. There's just so many weapons. There's Kittle, there's Ayuk, there's Debo, there's Christian McCaffrey, one of the best, if not the best, pass-catching running back in the NFL, right? There's a lot of targets to go around, and Brandon Ayuk hasn't really flashed too much. He gets stuck in the doghouse. I don't know. I feel like I'm really low, not low on Brandon Ayuk. I just don't really have any Brandon Ayuk in these underdog drafts that I've been doing. Like, I don't know. There's just nothing to it. Like, if you pick him, you just feel like, oh, I got a receiver that I think is good. Like, I think he's a good player. It's just kind of confusing offense, if I'm being honest with you. So, after we went ahead and got Tyler Lockett in my pocket skirt, we see Mike Evans, James Conner, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift, Darren Waller, Justin Herbert the pervert, Brandon Ayuk, Justin Fields, Deshaun Watson, and T-Law, touchdown Jesus, Trevor Lawrence. So, looking at the board here, again, we don't need a quarterback. At some point, we need a tight end, but at this point, you know, when it's Freiermuth, Ingram, Njoku, Schultz, I really like Ingram, but I don't even think I have to take him in the 8th round. I think I can continue to wait. So we're going to go running back here, get our 3rd running back onto the squad. Rachaad White, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco, best available. I have Pacheco ranked the highest. I think he is the safest pick. The thing is, when we have these solid running backs already, I don't necessarily think we need the safest pick. I think we kind of want to go with the highest upside. I don't like Rachaad White that much. But I'm going to be honest, right now where we're sitting, there's just no competition around him to take the targets, the carries from him. And if that's the case, even though Rachaad White, I think, isn't very good, right? 3.7 yards per attempt last season. If he gets all the volume, he's still going to be good enough for fantasy. So I'm going to take him there. The experts rank Rachaad White at 46 overall. If you take Rachaad White 46th overall in your fantasy draft, you have something wrong with you. After Rachaad White, we see Tua Tagovailoa, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco, George Pickens, Treylon Burks, James Cook, Javonte Williams, as well as Jackson Smith-Njigba. Javonte Williams is a pretty interesting player. I do still like him a decent amount in fantasy drafts, but I do fully understand that he's probably not going to get a full workload till maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks into the season. Looking at the board, we got 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers. We have our quarterback. We still don't have a tight end, but again, I'm not fiending. I'm not jonesing to draft Evan Ingram. So we're going to go wide receiver. Jahan Dotson, I like a decent amount. Cortland Sutton, I'm just not really drafting. Kadarius Toney, I mean, I think you have to have a hole in your head to draft fucking Kadarius Toney, if I'm being honest with you. The guy can't stay healthy. I get the upside. He's the wide receiver 1, Nick, you dumb bastard, on the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, he's the wide receiver 1 for fucking 2 weeks. Again, I'm not rooting for injury. Knock on wood, we don't root for injuries. But even with the non-injury concerns, like, the guy doesn't perform unless he plays, like, very low snaps. He's not a high snap share guy. I like Jahan Dotson. I like Jordan Addison. I'm going to go with my boy. I want a bad bitch, Jordan Addison Ray of the Minnesota Vikings, the wide receiver 2 behind Justin Jefferson. Never really has to worry about being covered by the best corner. Had a great career at USC. I think he's going to step into a good role in Minnesota behind Justin Jefferson. Again, that kind of Adam Thielen-ish role. But this is a Minnesota Vikings team that passes a lot more compared to even some of those great Adam Thielen seasons in Minnesota. So I like Jordan Addison a ton. He has been one of my biggest targets in every fantasy draft I'm in. I'm always trying to get a piece of my boy Jordan Addison Ray. After Jordan Addison, we see Jahan Dotson, Antonio Gibby, Son, Kadarius Toney, Gabe Davis, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Quentin Johnston, who I like a ton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas. So we still don't have a tight end. Again, I'm not really panicking, but at some point we do need to get a tight end. And I think I'd rather have Ingram more than most of these guys. Or not Ingram. I would rather have Darren Waller, but he already went off the board. Right? Of course he did. Where'd he go? Darren Waller. He went in the 7th round, so all those points are kind of off. I do like Evan Ingram a ton too, though, if I'm being honest. But I think the addition of Calvin Ridley kind of hurts that touchdown upside. So I'm going to be honest, I don't really care who my tight end is at this point. So we're just going to keep on drafting. Again, we have Jalen Hurts, so if you draft a quarterback in the first, like, 5-6 rounds, like, why are you drafting a backup? There's just no reason to, right? Week 10, or if he gets hurt, you just cut someone off your bench and throw them in. So we have 3 running backs. We have a bunch of receivers. I think we're probably just going to keep hammering receiver unless the running backs really start to fall off. So the running backs, B-Rob, Dylan, Khalil Herbert, the pervert, Jamal with 2 A's, Williams, Samaje P. Ryan. I think we can afford to draft a wide receiver here and then go running back in the next round. But if a lot of these running backs go, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. So best receivers available: Rashad Master, Bateman, Jacoby Myers, Elijah Moore, Rondell Moore, Darnell. Here comes the Mooney. Jameson Williams is pretty interesting because he obviously is suspended for the first 6 games of the season, but when he comes back, he's going to be in a really high-octane offense of the Detroit Lions. Like, this is not... I've talked about this a bunch. This is not like your old fucking Lions, right? The team that had Dan Orlovsky quarterback and run backwards out the end zone for a safety, right? That's not the Detroit Lions we're dealing with now. I don't love Elijah Moore, but again, when you have Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins, Johnson, and Lockett, like, you're already pretty confident in those guys. You have Addison. I'm willing to just take the fucking moonshot. I'm willing to take a shot that maybe I just swing and the ball's in the catcher's mitt, right? Just a complete and utter whiff. But I'm also willing to take the shot on the home run, the Deshaun Watson bounce back, the Elijah Moore is really good. The problem was Zach Wilson was his quarterback, that kind of scenario, which I think is possible. And there's been a lot of positive reports for Elijah Moore out of camp. Maybe we can even pull anything out. Yeah, right here. 4 weeks ago, standing out early in OTAs. I like Elijah Moore, the player. It was just impossible to draft him because I never thought Zach Wilson was any good. After Elijah Moore comes Rashad Penny, A.J. Dillon, Zach Charbonnet, Zay Flowers, Brian Robinson, Samaje P. Ryan, Damian Harris, and Rashad Bateman. So my worst nightmare happened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs go before we get to pick again. So the running backs are getting a little gross, but I still love Khalil Herbert. I know people are trying to say, Nick, they have Donta Foreman, they have Roquan Johnson, Nick. Be afraid of Khalil Herbert. Don't draft him. But the problem is Khalil Herbert put up 5.7 yards per attempt last year as a solid pass catcher as well. Not a guy that's going to get 50, 60 targets, but can get maybe a target or 2 a game and can do something with it. So I'm going with Khalil Herbert. I love the Chicago Bears offense this season. I think they're being slept on. I think Khalil Herbert is being slept on mightily. Seems like no one wants to draft Khalil Herbert. After Khalil Herbert, we see Alan Lazard, Jerick McKinnon, Jacoby Myers, Jameson Williams, Rondell Moore, Evan Ingram, Tyler, yeah, Boyd, Pat Fryermuth, Devin Off the Chain, Devin 2 Chains, and Danny Dimes. I haven't heard shit about Jerick McKinnon all offseason. He's a fine draft pick, but, like, let's be honest, for his true ceiling to hit, he needs to catch so many passes. CH is still there. Pacheco's a better runner than him. Again, it's in the 11th or the 12th round, so I can't fully judge it. And that's kind of something that I've always kind of preached, right? Even if I don't like a given player that goes here, like, for instance, I don't love, just look at the board, like, Jacoby Myers. like in the 11th round. But am I going to say you're a dumb bastard for drafting? Am I going to say you're an idiot? No, because it's the 11th round. Like, it's so late. That's where you want to be taking the picks. Waddleburger is a fire team name. Right now, one of my leagues, my team name is Tua D's Nuts in Your Mouth, which I think is a pretty fire name. But obviously, that's just because I'm a Dolphins fan. So, 4 running backs right now, 6 receivers, no tight ends still. I'm going to go Njoku. I like Schultz. I like Chig. I like Higbee. I'm going Njoku. But we already have so many Cleveland guys. We have Chubb and Elijah Moore, so I think that's a little crazy, right? You don't need 3 guys on the Cleveland Browns. We're going to go Dalton Schultz. We could probably wait. Yeah, we can definitely wait. So if I was more confident in Miles Sanders, I would say we're probably fine with 4 running backs on this team, but I'm just not as confident in Sanders as most. So I'm going to go with Jamal with 2 A's Williams. Jamal Williams should be the lead back if something happens to Alvin Kamara and he gets that suspension. Like, again, there's another thing I've just beat like a dead fucking horse. I think he's getting suspended. I don't know how he's not getting suspended. I like Kendre Miller too, but Jamal Williams, look, he's the veteran. He's not like some rando, right? He not a rando, but Kendre Miller's not a rando. He's better than that, but Kendre Miller's a rookie, right? You don't necessarily assume Kendre Miller's going to just take over week 1, and then we do need a tight end, so we're drafting a tight end. Dalton Schultz came off the board, as did David Njoku. I'm fine with Chig, though. Really the number 2 weapon on the Tennessee Titans in the passing game outside of Treylon Burks. They don't have a lot. They have Nick Westbrook, Ikayin. They have really like no one of name after that. I think Chris Moore is on that team. Houston Texans legend. So we're back up here on the board after we went with Chig, Wan'Dale Robinson, Dickie Dak Prescott. You like that? Kirk Cousins, Dalton Kincaid, Aaron Rodgers, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Warren, Jeff Wilson, Zay Jones, and Tyler Algier. Who's excited for Hard Knocks with the Jumbo Jets and Aaron Rodgers? I think that's going to be funny. Maybe we can learn how to do some shrooms with Aaron Rodgers during Hard Knocks. All right, so we're going receiver to close this bad boy out. I take Nico Collins every single time. I saw a clip of C.J. Stroud throwing him the ball on Twitter today, and there was a little bit of ejaculation that occurred and I jizzed in my pants. Yeah, it was beautiful. I love Nico Collins. But we take him every time. Some positive news for Romeo Doubs that I've read. At this point, like with your last pick, you can literally take anyone. Like, I don't think it's crazy to go all the way down and take someone that's even not on this list. Like, take fucking Jonathan Mingo if you want. Tim Patrick's gotten some positive reports. He might even be the wide receiver 2 in Denver ahead of Sutton. Like, I haven't heard anything about Sutton in terms of targets. Hunter Renfrow. Like, you can take any of these guys. I think we went Dobbs last time, so we're going to go Van Jefferson. We already have Cooper Kupp, so I don't think we're going to go Van Jefferson. I love Nico Collins, but I think Mechie could also be the wide receiver 1 there, so we're going to go with John Mechie. Obviously missed his rookie year last season due to what happened to him, which obviously was just, like, a terrible thing. I'm glad he's okay now. He was drafted highly, comes from a great college, looked great in college. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out that John Mechie could be good in the NFL. After that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, my boy Tank, Bigsby, Geno Smith onto forming a bunch of defenses. So for the kicker defense strategy, kicker, you just want to go off your brain, right? When you're the first one to take a kicker, do you like Tucker? Do you like Tucker, barely newer, Evan McPherson, Daniel Carlson, Bucker, the fucker? I barely knew her as well. We're going to go, we normally take Justin Tucker first. We're going to go with Evan McPherson, Money Mac, at the 1505. And then for defense, you just want to draft a defense playing a not-so-hot offense week 1. Let's see who's available. The Steelers. Let's see. The Steelers play against the Niners. Not doing that. The Saints play the Titans. That's the one we always go against. The Dolphins, Chargers. I already knew that off the top of my head. The Bengals play the Browns. Let's just go with the Saints because the Saints defense is good, and I don't think the Titans offense is that great. Even though I took Chig, let's be honest, Titans don't have a great offense, and the Saints have a pretty good defense. So we get a B, which is Fugazi. It's a Wazi. It's a Woozy. Should be an A plus at least. Our team is Jalen Hurts, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Miles Sanders, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins, Chig Okonkwo, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett in my pocket. Skirt. Saints, McPherson, and then our bench is I Want a Bad Bitch, Jordan Addison Ray, Rashad White, Elijah Moore, Khalil Herbert, Jamal with 2 A's Williams, and John Mechie. So let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought about today's draft. Did you enjoy it? Let me know. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.